Work in silence, pray in silence, and win in silence. Reset everything and start again. Let me tell you something that almost no one dares to admit. The more you talk about your plans, the less they progress. It seems contradictory, I know. We grew up hearing that we need to put ourselves out there, take a stand, show results. But what if true power lies in the opposite? What if silence is where the greatest victories begin to be built? Maybe today you're tired. Tired of trying to explain who you are, justifying decisions, proving that things will work out. And here's an uncomfortable but liberating truth. You don't need to convince anyone. Some phases of life aren't about showing off. They're about resetting everything and starting over from within. It's at this point that working in silence ceases to be a weakness and becomes a strategy. There's a type of growth that doesn't show up on social media, doesn't generate immediate applause, and doesn't receive external validation. But it's precisely this growth that sustains everything afterward. While the world chases after noise, you can choose something different. Focus, faith, and consistency. Work in silence, pray in silence, and trust that, in due time, victory will speak for itself. Without shouting, without announcements, without haste. Silence as ground zero. There comes a point in life when continuing to talk, explain, or try to prove something only delays the process. That's when silence ceases to be absence and becomes a strategy. It's not about giving up, it's about taking a step back to gain clarity. You know when everything seems too chaotic and you feel like you need to hit a reset button? That's it. Silence becomes the invisible button that resets the excess and restores focus. When you choose silence, something curious happens. The mind slows down, the ego lowers its volume, and priorities begin to align themselves. It's like clearing a desk full of papers before making an important decision. You can't build anything solid on constant noise. Therefore, silence isn't about hiding, it's about organizing yourself internally. And let's face it, nobody does that while trying to please everyone. Perhaps today you are exactly at that starting point, feeling the need to begin again, but without knowing where to start. Silence comes in as an unexpected ally. It creates space to perceive what truly matters and what was only wasting energy. Before acting, you observe. Before speaking, you understand. And, without realizing it, something begins to move internally, preparing the ground for a different kind of action that follows. Working in silence. Invisible discipline and absolute focus. Working in silence means doing what needs to be done without needing an audience. It's waking up early, fulfilling your commitments, and continuing even when no one is watching. At first, this is unsettling because the world teaches us that progress needs to be announced. But truth be told, real progress almost always happens away from the spotlight. It is in silence that focus is strengthened, and discipline ceases to be mere theory. When you work in silence, the energy that was previously spent explaining plans is now used to execute them. It's like exchanging talk for action. A simple example. Instead of saying you're going to change your life, you change small habits. Reading 10 pages a day, studying a specific topic, organizing your financial routine, taking care of your body. None of this gets immediate likes, but it all builds a real foundation. And a solid foundation doesn't make noise. It sustains. There's a little discussed advantage to silent work. Less external interference. Less opinion. Less comparison. Less doubt sown by those who don't live your reality. You begin to listen more to your own conscience and less to the noise around you. And without realizing it, you create your own rhythm, almost unshakable. This kind of consistency prepares something deeper, which doesn't arise from visible effort, but from an internal alignment that goes beyond doing. Praying in silence, inner alignment and spiritual direction. Praying silently is different from repeating prepared words. It's when you stop speaking outwardly and begin to listen inwardly. In this quiet space, Anxiety loses its power, and clarity begins to emerge. It's not something overly mystical. It's practical. You quiet down, breathe, organize your heart, and allow your mind to leave survival mode. And, curiously, decisions that previously seemed confusing begin to make sense. In the silence of prayer, you realize how much you were trying to solve everything through control, by force, in haste. It is there that a different kind of confidence is born, less desperate and more firm. A simple example: instead of asking for immediate answers, you begin to ask for direction for the next step. Sometimes that step is studying more. Sometimes it's waiting. Sometimes it's ending something that has already completed its cycle. Silent prayer adjusts the course without making a fuss. There is something powerful about not telling anyone what you are praying for. This preserves faith from unnecessary interference and keeps the focus on what is essential. When you pray in silence, you learn to trust without needing external validation. And this trust begins to overflow into other areas of life, preparing the ground for deeper changes that don't come from the outside in, but from the inside out. Resetting everything and starting over. The detachment that precedes growth. Starting over isn't about erasing your own history. It's about ceasing to carry what no longer serves you. It's about looking at old habits, routines, relationships, and even thoughts, and admitting, this has already served its purpose. Many people are afraid to start over because they confuse starting over with failure. But let's be honest, starting over many times is the first sign of maturity. Only those who have the courage to admit they can do better change. Starting over requires letting go, and letting go hurts a little. It hurts to break free from autopilot. It hurts to abandon comfort zones that no longer yield results. A practical example: reviewing expenses, cutting excesses, simplifying routines, reducing digital distractions, choosing your friends more carefully. None of this is glamorous, but it all creates space. And space is essential for any real growth to happen. When you reset everything, your mind becomes lighter and your vision clearer. You start to see opportunities where before you only saw exhaustion. It's like renovating an old house. First you need to empty it, remove the debris, face the mess. Only then comes the construction. This process prepares something bigger, because a true fresh start doesn't make noise. It happens silently, but it changes everything. Winning in silence, when the results speak for themselves. Winning in silence means reaching your goal without needing to announce the path. It's when people notice the change, even before you explain anything. You didn't need to convince anyone, you simply remained consistent. And the funny thing is, respect arises naturally. It doesn't come from speeches, it comes from posture. Silent victory has this curious effect. It silences doubts without raising your voice. When the results appear, you understand why the process needed to be discreet. If you had talked too much, you would have been distracted. If you had shown too much, you would have lost focus. A simple example: someone who adjusts their financial life quietly, pays off debts, builds savings, and changes their decision-making patterns. One day, without fanfare, tranquility arrives. And those looking from the outside think it was luck, but you know the price of consistency. There is a profound satisfaction in winning without needing to prove anything. You realize you don't need everyone's approval to keep going. This maturity changes how you face future challenges, because now you trust the process more than applause. And this awareness opens up space for something even greater, which begins even before the first visible result, right at the start of everything. Apply, decide, and move forward. Now let me ask you some direct questions, without beating around the bush. What have you been putting off because you're waiting for recognition? What do you still insist on explaining when you should simply execute? How many times have you felt you needed to talk less, observe more, and act more consistently? Real change begins when you decide to apply it, not when you merely agree. Choose one practical thing to start today. Just one. Perhaps organize your routine, cut out a distraction, go back to studying something you abandoned, set aside some daily time for silence and prayer, even if it's just 10 minutes. Don't wait for the ideal scenario. Start small, but start aligned. The progress that transforms doesn't come from impulse, it comes from silent repetition. And now I challenge you. Will you continue seeking applause, or will you build something so solid that it doesn't need to be announced? Will you continue reacting to the noise of the world, or will you create your own direction in silence? If this message spoke to you, comment below what you've decided to change starting today. Subscribe to the channel, activate the bell, and continue walking with me, because here we transform silence into strength, faith into direction, and consistency into victory.